2024, at 7:06 PM. Oh, it's the 7th, I'm sorry. Correction on the record, it's May 7th, Tuesday, at 7:06 PM. For this, I'd like to have everybody stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So, who do we have on the board here as current? We have David Patari on,
And Len Libonia
are
on
both on?
phone.
Okay, on the one phone,
Yes.
okay. Should we set a microphone maybe or something?
Yeah.
Okay, just hold that, okay, that, and as far as alternates, we have John as the alternate. Okay, all right. So the first thing we have on here. Oh, okay, all right,
Or the vice chair. Sharon Scarlett. You can see John for Sharon.
oh, okay, all right, so let the record be noted that we're seating John Allen in replacement of Sharon's, Scarlett. Is there anything else that we have to do as far as that?
No.
So the public hearing number 24-031-Z, 244 Lee Farm Drive, Mr. and Mrs. Joseph and Sherry Capaldo, is that correct? They're the applicants and the owners. They're applying for a variance for section 13-0.6, enlargement of a non-conforming building. Increase height of structure approximately 5 feet to have access to house mechanicals such as furnace, hot water heater, etc. Existing structure does not meet building codes. Make renovations as mentioned in the application to bring the house to current building codes. Site plan provided with this application.
It's these right here.
The order. You'll open the public hearing, rather.
Oh,
For this application, you'll have to open the public hearing in order to hear comment from the public as.
I didn't do that?
Nope, you'll just formally open the public hearing here, and then we'll discuss the application.
All right, I formally open the public hearing. I didn't, can I see any of that? Do we have copies for everybody?
Yeah.
Two,
Yep.
share that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we only need one more, that's all.
There's two separate sheets.
All right. So, we're going up and not out. Would the applicants please approach?
Good evening. My name is Louis Martaccio of Martaccio and Oliveira. My office is 191 Main Street, Southington, Connecticut. I'm representing the applicants who are present and directly behind me. And by way of housekeeping, I would like to pass forward, if I may, to staff the confirmation of certified letters going out to all the
Okay,
neighbors.
from neighbors, yep. How many neighbors were there? 7, and you have all 7? Okay. Thank you.
So what I have just passed forward were the the notice, along with the 7 green cards for notice going out to the neighbors. In addition to that, present tonight, which I believe you'll hear from, are 3 of the adjoining neighbors, one to the left, one directly across, one directly across the street, and one further to the left of the residence itself. In addition to that, if I may, I'll submit 5 letters of support from surrounding neighbors. Their names correspond with the green cards that have been presented to staff.
green cards, all acceptable? And these are all the ones that correspond with that letter, the letter?
Yes, other than the three individuals that are here today.
And they're all in favor?
Yes,
of
they
this?
are.
You guys want to see these?
And with your indulgence, what I would ask you, the committee to consider, I realize it's not on for action tonight, it's a public hearing, but I have three, by way of background, I have a little bit of history. I've both sat on your side of the lecture as a ZBA officer. I'm also in my hometown of Southington. I'm also the town attorney, so I've had occasion to deal with this very issue on numerous occasions, both as a sitting member as well as the attorney that has been presented with these very issues. And I believe, if you will indulge me and allow me to make at least a short presentation, perhaps Mr. Chair can consider making this an action matter this evening. Again, I understand it's a public hearing, but based on what I believe to be the controlling law, it may be moot. Again, I'm not suggesting either of you take my word for it, but just indulge me, allow me to make my presentation at the conclusion of the public hearing.
Sure, absolutely.
So with that said, I guess you want to go ahead and speak, and then all individuals afterwards?
Good evening, members. My name is Joseph Capaldo. My wife Sherry and I own the property located at 244 Lee Farm Drive. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to review my variance request, although I feel that my zoning application should have been administratively approved prior to this point. There is no language in Regulation 13.6 that refers to height restrictions of non-conforming lots other than the R20 zone height limit of 40 feet as noted in Schedule B, Line 6. My proposed structure will be approximately 31 feet. I'm sitting before you this evening due to an unfortunate incident that occurred at my residence late last year. A vehicle crashed through the front of my home, causing significant damage and rendering the home unlivable due to severe damage to the structure, the kitchen, the plumbing, and electrical. Following the incident, my wife and I were displaced and are currently living in a rental. I have photographs of the damage we can submit. We had the damage to our home assessed by a building professional and were advised that due to the age of the home, which was constructed in 1929, the extent of the damage to the structure, along with the plumbing and electrical, it was recommended that we tear down the existing structure and start from scratch. This would also solve our issue with rodent infestation beneath the home. The structure rests on a weak cinder block foundation and a dirt crawl space. Animal infestation, including raccoons, possums, rats, and mice, live and die under our home, causing a very uncomfortable environment. This would be the most prudent course of action to create a home that is safe and up to current building codes. With regards to the proposed roof elevation, the driving force behind this request is to maximize the use of available space, as the topography of my lot creates a challenge due to the large amount of ledge under the structure. I also have photographs of that. The ledge also expands under the structures of the structures adjacent to my home, one which is 20 feet to the west, the other which is 35 feet to the east. Excuse me. I'm concerned that mechanically removing or blasting that ledge from my home will compromise those adjacent structures. This proposed roof elevation will allow space for the HVAC system as well as the hot water equipment, along with usable storage space. This area will remain unconditioned attic space with access only by a drop-down stairwell. The increased space is also a necessity, as I recently lost my father and my handicapped elderly mother is living alone approximately 35 minutes away. When my home is complete, she will be moving in with my wife and I. Historically, my neighborhood consisted of small cottages. These cottages have been converted into year-round homes. 2 such homes in my neighborhood, also the R20 district, have been extensively renovated and enlarged. 143 Lakemare Drive added a second floor and 14 foot of height in 2001 following a ZBA variance. Another home, 179 Lakemare Drive, also in close proximity to my home, was damaged in the tornado of 2016. This home was demolished and rebuilt. The zoning permit was approved administratively without ZBA involvement. That structure's square footage increased by 44%, while the footprint only increased by 6%. So the structure went up to maintain that square footage. That was completed in 2018. Recognizing the paramount importance of compliance with the zoning regulations, I'm fully dedicated to ensuring that the proposed changes align with the regulation of the R20 zoning district limit of 40 feet in height. I stand by, ready to provide comprehensive plans and any additional information necessary to facilitate the review of the proposed modifications. Thank you for your time.
All right, so what you're saying is that your existing structure is how high?
24 feet,
And you're going to 31,
31.
and do we have confirmation that the max height is 40 feet
In an R20, yeah.
in an R20? Okay.
I have a representation on my elevation of where the existing height is. I can show you that. This right here. This is 4-inch scale. The existing home is this height, so this is the difference.
And the footprint is basically staying the exact same.
The footprint will be expanding according to the regulations in 13.6.
And what's the expansion on that?
4.5 feet to the west and 8 feet off of the front towards, I can show you here, the building's right over here. So we are, okay, so 4.5 feet, this is the existing, the dotted line is the existing.
Okay.
So this meets the setback on this side, and we're coming off the front, we're expanding off to the front. I
And
believe.
this side here is still within the setbacks?
That's it, this side right here is covered under regulation 13.6 that allows us side yard expansion. As long as we
Horizontal.
don't come within, I believe, 10 feet of an
So
adjacent structure.
you're still all compliant, in other words,
Correct.
with your
Correct.
changes?
Yes, ma'am.
Jada, you could speak just a bit more for the commissioners regarding the side yard expansion that Mr. Capaldo's referencing.
Yeah, so the R20 zone, you're able to expand horizontally on the non-conforming side, but it doesn't say about anything about going vertical in that expansion.
So the provision for R20 zones is that all these houses in R20 zones were predating zoning. So many of them have side yard setbacks that make them non-conforming. In an R20 zone, you're allowed to extend along that pre-established side yard setback that's been established by the nonconformity. So the setback in an R20 zone for a side yard is 15 feet. If a home structure, let's say, had a setback of 6.5 feet, because it was pre-existing, their 6.5-foot side yard setback is now the established side yard setback for that expansion along that side yard.
So the only thing they cannot do then is go into the setbacks of the rear of the lot and the front. So
They can
basically,
still-
they can go the whole horizontal of.
Yeah, the only area that it doesn't reference is the roadway setback. It only references, the provision only references side yard setbacks, which in Southbury, we don't really define side, back, and side. It's just all sides and then roadway. The provision allows for side yard extensions to the established nonconformity. The issue here is it doesn't allow vertical extension, and that's what Mr. Capaldo would like to secure through the variance.
So to be clear, the town does not permit vertical height increases.
All in the representation from the town attorney in his letter.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions for him? The reason for the mechanicals in the attic is to give you more square footage living space on the first and second floor.
I don't have, currently, in my current structure, I don't have an HVAC system. The heater was essentially a Mr. Heater hanging on the wall. That's the way it's been for years. I can't go down because of the ledge, so I need the space in the attic, particularly for the mechanicals.
Right, but you're housing the units in the attic.
Correct,
The
correct.
condensation,
Yes.
all that.
Yep, everything, all the mechanicals.
So if you didn't house them there, you'd have to put them on the first or second floor.
Correct.
Which then is gonna
Which
reduce your square footage.
It's a small lot, small area, so we're trying to make best use of the small space that we
So-
have.
Can you explain in detail what the hardship is? I mean, that you're specifically going for here? Because I'm having trouble trying to understand. I understand the fact that you're trying to gain more square footage.
Perhaps I could address that as I sort of suggested earlier. And if you would just bear with me on that, I'm asking that your panel consider three primary positions, if you will. The first is that I don't believe that the applicant is in need of a variance. I mean, the reason I suggest that is as with many towns, the zoning regs are void of vertical. There is no reference whatsoever. It doesn't prohibit it. It point blank is void on its entirety. I can tell you that your legal counsel provided an opinion. The opinion was based on a 2000, I believe, 4 case. It was the city of Brantford. I would submit to you that they're apples and ashtrays by comparison. In contrast, our Supreme Court ruled in 2022, and the specific ruling on that is very clear, and it states that a property in our zone 20, the maximum height permitted, in this case, is 40 feet. That there's ample case law, but in particular, our Supreme Court specifically ruled that when dealing with vertical changes, the variance is not required unless it's an aspect of a variance is not required when it deals with vertical, only the non-conforming aspect of the existing structure. Now, that's our Supreme Court. That's point blank saying the vertical is not a factor in this. Now, I realize that approximately 15 years earlier, which is a case that I believe was the basis of the legal opinion presented to the committee as a whole, it does not address the fact that our court is abundantly clear. And while I don't expect, nor would I want either of you or any of you to memorize or be necessary to read it out, to read the case, I'd be happy to quote the actual case. It's Pfizer versus Madison Beach Hotel, LLC, and it can be found at 341 Connecticut 702. That's why I asked that perhaps that you as chair would consider taking action tonight, because I can tell you that, again, absent a regulation or an ordinance that specifically makes reference to vertical, and variance isn't necessary. It's granted with some degree of regularity in most every town administratively. It's not done, we don't seek a variance because it's not required. And that's, again, our law is very clear on that. It was decided point blank, and again, I quote, in the present case, and that was referring to that case, it says the structure moving for a variance for a non-conforming parcel applies only in the structure in the non-conforming aspect. That doesn't apply here. The proposal is in compliance with the present law. And again, if there were an ordinance or a regulation within this town that put a height, which it does, by the way, but that put a height of, say, 25 feet, a variance would be necessary. In the present case, it's an R20. Southbury's regulations say a maximum height of 40 feet. This falls considerably lower than that, and therefore I would submit to you that it's pretty clear that there is no variance required. I'm not telling you your job, and please don't, there's nothing that's more frustrating to me when I have someone stand on this side of the podium and tell you what you should do. I'm simply pointing out that the town took the time to get a legal opinion. The legal opinion, while arguably is stretching a little bit, certainly makes reference to the fact that in that particular case, the ZBA did approve the variance. It was appealed and reversed on appeal. Why I started this conversation by saying it's apples and ashtrays is because that was a self-induced and self-motivated change. The case at Point, and I believe all of you probably have a copy, I see at least one of you do, that was a case in which it was an oceanfront home, and the individual sought to take a 2-story home and make it a 3-story home, thereby increasing by almost a third, I'm guessing, I don't know that, by the way, the square footage of the home and done, it wasn't an issue that was an uncontrolled or unanticipated, it was an attempt to make a home more livable. And while nobody can blame an individual or an entity for wanting to make the most out of their oceanfront home, the crux of this case was you don't meet any hardship criteria because you just want to make a nicer home, and everybody would want to have a nicer home. That sort of does away with the concept behind limiting growth within a non-conforming parcel. This isn't that situation. The plans as submitted, and I have numerous photos if that would be of assistance, the plans as submitted fall well below your guidelines, well below the guidelines. So we could, and certainly can and will if you'd like, because since we're here for a variance anyways, get into the hardship aspect of it. But the first position that I would encourage or ask that you at least consider is the fact that none of this is necessary. As I said, the regulations are void on that. There's nothing in this town, as with most, by the way. And as I said, I speak from experience and both a legal and sitting at the dais like you folks. The criteria falls within the four corners of what's permitted and what's permissible. If it helps by way of illustration, I would be more than happy to sort of demonstrate, if you'd like to see photos. I don't know if you do at this point or not, if it would be helpful.
I'd rather go through the other two after you're done with this
Of course,
first example.
be happy to. The second component that I would ask you to consider does fall within the hardship exception. And the hardship in that regard is not based on a personal need or a personal desire. Well, again, as I said earlier, I think everybody wants to maximize the most of their land, and in particular their residence. But in this case, it doesn't fall in that. As I said, I believe that the zoning regulations do certainly permit an approval administratively, or at the very least by this body. But in the event that it doesn't, I believe that we do have certainly an unusual hardship that's affecting the property. I think, as Mr. Capaldo said, and many of you may know, being from Southbury, west of Kettletown is riddled with ledge, and it's ledge throughout many of the photographs of the parcel itself I have. So for an individual to not necessarily rebuild his home, but to install an HVAC system, which the home doesn't have at present, other than a water heater, which clearly wouldn't fall under HVAC, it would require essentially blasting. And it's blasting the ledge in the home, or where the home site will be. And that poses as two fundamental issues. The first being the stability and structural integrity of the blasting on that parcel itself, which is where the mechanicals would have to go, or likely have to go, without giving up a large portion of a relatively small parcel. I'm sorry, relatively small property. The second component to that is the effect or likely effect it will have on parcels around. Anytime there's blasting, and I realize there's bonding required and all of that, but there's an inherent risk of instability and causing some damage to the surrounding properties. I have 3 photos of the home immediately to the west. I think they're pretty evident that that house is loaded with the same form or same piece, if you will, of ledge. So this is not an issue of the Capaldo's undoing. It's not an issue that by any means is caused or desirous to make their home more livable or provide them with a better living environment. That certainly is a great benefit of it, but it's not the hardship itself. I mean, I'm not here to suggest that the cost associated should be a factor, because I'm well aware that it shouldn't. I'm not here to suggest that there aren't other remedies available, but the only plausible remedy is to provide for the HVAC system to be on the top floor as opposed to on the first floor, which again, if you have the plans in front of you, there quite frankly isn't a whole lot of space that would permit, and more importantly, be effective or efficient in operating there. So that sort of bootstraps in the same thing I was talking about, the case that was cited here, is that was by their own choice. That was a decision that the individual homeowner made to add additional living space, revamp the house, and they sort of packaged it in saying we want to come up to code, and by allowing us to build a third floor or increase the home by 33%, we can get up to code. I'm here telling you that that's the polar opposite. The square footage is not radically different from a home that was built in 1929. The only significant change there is that there will be mechanicals, which there currently aren't, and the only feasible spot to put them would be the third floor or to blast. And finally, to differentiate the two, the third floor is not living space. It wouldn't have access through a stairwell. It would have access through a pull-down mechanical stair like many attics have, thereby allowing a appropriate amount of space and ventilation to put these units. And then the third and final position, which I hope is not even relevant for purpose of today, but certainly brought it up, is that the statute in Connecticut, which is incorporated through the town's regulations, does have a criteria whereby this board can approve a variance even without the finding of a hardship. And in doing so, the board not only can, but can do it by looking, or oftentimes does do it, by looking at essentially two things. While you as a commissioner granted broad discretion, the only two guiding criteria that you're required to consider is the change or the variance the applicant is seeking, does it change and establish, I'm going to make sure I quote this right so I don't give you wrong information, I apologize. I'm reading from the statute, and that is, does it change an established non-conforming use to a less offensive conforming use, non-conforming use? And as I said, our courts have historically ruled that you have broad discretion in deciding that. So again, to be clear, does it change an established non-conforming use to a less offensive non-conforming use? Understanding that you have broad discretion. The only controlling factor that relates does it substantially affect the town's comprehensive zoning plan? In the present case, it doesn't in any way at all. It makes it more practical and certainly more presentable, even though that's secondary. And lastly, is the change in harmony with the zoning regulations and overall character of the area. You have the plans. I certainly would submit to you that they would likely be more consistent with the changes that are taking place all around the Lake Shore area. And at that point, if you'd like, I can show you the ledge, just so that it would help demonstrate what I'm actually referring to. If I may approach. The first one is the existing home as it stands now. What you're going to see is the actual elevation of the roof on that home.
Here, you can stand over here.
Oh, that would be great. The second photo
This is existing, they were a little higher.
demonstrates the damage that was done to the home. And while I realize that's not a criteria or necessarily relevant for purposes of granting a variance, I think it's relevant from determining whether the unique circumstances that are not in any way self-imposed or self-inflicted or beneficial to my client. The third photo is identical. It shows the home in its current state. As Mr. Capaldo testified or stated earlier, they are currently residing in a rental home with the hope of beginning to rebuild their home. The fourth photograph is the ledge that is directly under the westerly portion of their home. And as I think you're going to see on the fifth photo, the ledge extends all the way throughout their property. That's a unique characteristic of this parcel as opposed to the surrounding area and Southbury as a whole. The sixth photo is once again consistent. What it shows is the home, but also the ledge, the continuation of the same ledge that was demonstrated a moment ago, which essentially limits their ability to build without blasting or give up one of what amounts to 4 rooms in their home for HVAC. The seventh photo this is this area here. The first one was on the easterly side. This is directly under the easterly side of the home, and I think that's the one that demonstrates the home is, no, the next one will demonstrate the home is actually held together through a pylon resting on the ledge. This is the home directly to the west, and as you'll see, it's a continuation of that ledge. So the ledge carries from the easterly side of their property over and through the westerly side of the property, that being the home directly next door.
This is the home next door?
Yeah, and the owner of that home is present today.
I was gonna say, I see ductwork of some sort.
Yeah, that's the next door home, as is this. And then finally, the last two photos is the home on the easterly side. As you'll see, the ledge does not exist. This is the easterly side, this is my client's home. What you just viewed is the home on the opposite side, which is right here. So my client's home with the ledge, I showed you both sides, underneath and the front, and then the ledge from this home, which is the last photo I just demonstrated. So I realize if you don't know the layout, I went out and looked at the layout. It gives you a better idea of, we have what amounts to a minimum of 2 lots in that immediate vicinity that are filled with ledge. My client's home, albeit now is uninhabitable, but is essentially held together with a 2.5-foot lolly column resting on the ledge. So, at the risk of being repetitive and redundant, and I know you all have better places to be than here tonight, I would just ask you that, I think that the first and foremost is the fact that I don't believe that absent something extraordinary that I'm not aware of, that there's anything prohibiting the extra couple of feet that are being added to the property vertically. This is not in any aspect part of the non-conforming unit or home itself. And if the legislature or the town folk in drafting or adopting the state regs had intended it to be, it likely would have been included, but more importantly, given the fact that our Supreme Court has already stated that vertical and horizontal are not in any way the same category. Vertical is not limited unless it's part of the non-conforming structure. In this case, it's not.
Now, I'm looking at the plan here, and it says proposed deck, so these decks do not exist?
They do not. There is a small deck now, you can see it on the second to last photo that I presented to you. There is a small deck that exists on the home. It's the red home. If I may approach, I could probably show you the deck.
Well, no, I'm curious on it, because I'm looking at, there's a floodplain, the 100-year mark that shows that I would have to check, because I'm not familiar with that, if it's able to encroach into the floodplain zone. So that, if we're approving this, this would be a part of that approval you're seeking.
Or subject to. I would have absolutely no issue with it being approved, subject to making certain it's compliant with the 100-year flood zone. I don't know the answer to that, only because the only issue before you today is the roughly 10-foot increase in height. But if you were so inclined as a board to approve it, then I certainly would have no concerns or objection to it being conditioned upon
On the height.
I can speak to that.
Would you please reiterate what you just said about the height? You just said 10 foot in height. We were seeking.
I don't know what the exact height was. It's 5 feet, 3
Okay.
inches.
Yeah, approximately 5.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's quite
I think
important to know the actual number.
It's actually in not only your diagrams, but the photographs I provided to you as well.
Well, there was the one that you guys held up. I'm sure that would show it. That shows the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, when I said 10 feet, I was referring to the fact that it's still 10 feet below what your town permits.
Scale,
Right.
24 feet, roughly 5 5 to 6 feet to get to the peak. If we have scale rule, we can
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 6 feet, I would say.
6 feet.
And Mark, to answer your question, the 100-year flood mark is likely referencing First Light's jurisdictional boundary over the property, for which we have documentation from First Light certifying that the area of influence does not encroach on their boundary. This application has gone through inland wetlands because the entire property is under the purview of the Inland Wetlands Commission, being
Okay.
that it's in a regulated area. And Inland Wetlands has looked at the demolition and rebuild application and has approved it as it relates to wetland perspectives.
For the decks.
For the whole application, they have to demolish the existing home, they have to rebuild per that plan in front of you today. And when wetlands reviewed the application, they approved it per wetlands regulations.
So then I'm confused, if they approve this whole plan,
Wetlands.
For wetlands.
oh, the building department has not because of the height.
The building department is not a commission. The zoning department is, and that is the issue before you today, is they are seeking a variance
So
for the height.
I stand correct, I meant to mean the zoning department.
No problem.
So, my question to you on here, for the ledge blasting, why are you proposing, if this house is getting completely demolished, and what is the existing foundation that is proposed to go in for this new house?
It would be a concrete foundation, or a concrete slab with a crawl space. So not slab, I apologize, a shallow foundation that would be permissible to actually build on top of the sills. If I'm not mistaken, you're not doing that.
Without,
Cross walls pinned into the ledge.
correct, but there still has to be some ground coverage. So where are you gonna get the ground coverage where the outcrops of the ledges? I mean, not that it's my, you know what, actually, I stand, it's not on my behalf of that. But as far as the blasting and everything else, that's a monetary expense.
I don't believe that it is, though. With all due respect, I think it's a factor, it is. But the intention behind the zoning regulations are to let the homeowner use the property to the best of their ability. There's a quasi-judicial and quasi-cost-benefit analysis that's factored in. I'm not presenting an argument that the cost of blasting is prohibitive and therefore they should be entitled to a variance. I'm suggesting there's an inherent risk that far outweighs what amounts to a 5 to 6 foot rise in what amounts to a conforming building.
Okay, all right, so then basically the blasting has become, in my opinion, a non-issue. But you're saying now, and your claim was, that there's only two options, and it was a third floor or blasting.
No, I probably wasn't clear, and I'm very sorry, I may not even mentioned it. There's always the extreme option of giving up one of several rooms in the home. This is still a relatively or very small home. So the HVAC could fit into utilizing perhaps a portion of the family room or some other aspect. I'm not suggesting that an HVAC system cannot be placed. I'm suggesting it's completely impractical to do so.
And how many systems, if you don't mind me asking, are there that you need that third floor? We have HVAC, which would be a condensing unit. You have an option of an instant heat hot water heater. So I'm trying to put in my mind on here
Of
to
course.
the square footage that you're looking to accumulate into the third floor that you are not able to put either on the first or second floor.
Of course, it would be a full furnace with ductwork, running a trunk down one of the exterior walls and then feeding into the living space of the home. There would also be a air conditioning, air handler, as well as a condenser that would both be likely positioned on the third floor. There would be the water heater, a water softener that would likely go there, but it's not been determined yet by either building or, more importantly, the architect as far as where that would go. But it would be a relatively, by comparison size of the home, larger mechanical room because you're placing an entire HVAC system, including what amounts to the water softening system for the area. But it wouldn't be living space. It would not, again, that's, I guess, the key to this is that It would not involve living space, it would just be more storage for that purpose.
So would it be correct for me to say that it's just the fact that they don't want to forfeit the living space to house the units because they can be adequately put into the new construction somehow, some way? I mean, the trunk lines have to be run no matter what.
Of course.
Hot water heater, you could put a smaller hot water heater in. AC unit for this size unit of a house and everything else. The condenser unit can go outside. So, you know, and I'm not trying to.
I don't think you are, no.
I'm just trying to put all this stuff because the area that I would see that would be, and the biggest reason why I'm having this trouble with is that you're telling me on number one that this whole variance in our town is void, and I need to check into that. I can't make any, I have no knowledge of that.
Of course.
So for me to try and do a decision tonight would be unjustly. I couldn't do that.
Of course.
Because I'd be trying to put a vote on something that I'm not well educated on with this height variance. So, you know, I'm having trouble seeing the hardship of it, other than the fact that, like you said, everybody wants to have a beautiful house. Everybody
course.
wants to have the maximum size they can fit on their lot. I have no problem with that. We just have to take into the town as far as consideration that if something similar comes up and, you know, where does this stop?
Of course,
So
I
if we
understand
grant, and I'm sure as you know, this, and then there's a similar one and we don't for what, this could really turn into, and I just don't want a false, make a false pretense on this. So I need to get educated on this so that we can carry this to the following meeting, so that I can get up to speed on this. So I don't feel, and we'll put it to a vote as far as on the commission, to table this till next month's meeting, just so that I can get up to speed with this, because
course.
I just don't think it would be a wise decision for me to do for this evening.
And as I said, that would be the first of three arguments. The other request I'd make is that you not cross out the ledge. I think the ledge is, I know the ledge is grounds for hardship. And therefore, that I would ask that that be the basis. And there are other variables, again, that I don't necessarily are germane, such as an elderly parent moving in with the home. Those are issues that I think it would be pretty hard pressed to say there's a hardship. But
Well, the thing is if this is engineered and they're allowing you to pin to the ledge and have a certain amount of coverage and all that's being okay, you know, being presided through the town on that end, I don't, you know,
yeah, I guess,
I can't,
look at
you
it
know,
that
I
we're
can't
making-
proceed, because other than that, they're allowing you to build this structure the way it is.
Well, yeah,
So the
we-
only thing that the difference is why are you gonna blast? If you don't have to blast now, you're only gonna be losing a spot, so, you know, I'm not here to debate and argue
course
with
not.
you
No,
on
look, you
this. And you know, I'm trying to get as much information so we as the board can make a legitimate
I just ask you
decision.
to keep in perspective, this is a 6-foot increase. I mean, we've got to keep things in perspective.
understand that.
We all have to comply with the zoning regulations,
Right.
and I'm aware of that. I'm confident that the hardship exception, well, certainly it's not my decision.
Yeah.
I just ask that, let's keep this in perspective. We're asking for a 6-foot increase, which is clearly permitted by your regulations to accommodate HVAC, not living
But you
space.
keep saying it's permitted by our regulations, but I don't know, did I hear it wrong as far as, from our town stating that it's not?
A letter of opinion regarding our regulations, as well as a case provided by town attorney. Jada, if you wanted to read into the record the nonconformity regulations, if you have them. If not, I can read them
Yeah.
into the record.
And perhaps what I could do, if it would make it of any assistance, and I don't know the answer to this, but I would be happy to coordinate with the town attorney prior to next meeting for the sole purpose of both of us rehashing each of our positions and maybe having a more clearer, whether it be I'm mistaken or he's mistaken, maybe it'll take the burden off of either of you from interpreting what the law might be.
That would be something I would recommend that you approach upon. I can't.
No, of course, that's what I suggested. I would reach out to your town attorney and discuss this very issue. That, again, not the hardship aspect of it, but whether a variance is even necessary. Assuming the position of the town is still a variance is necessary, then we can deal with the hardship.
Okay, all right. Does the board have any other questions? I make a recommendation to,
Real quick, Mark, you have two options. You can either table the public hearing and keep it open to the next month's meeting, or you can close the public hearing now. The only reason I would say maybe don't close the public hearing now is there are a number of people in the
That
audience
still need to
who
speak.
still want to speak in favor. So your options are
All right,
available
so
to you.
yes, then we have to allow the public. So at this time, is there anybody that wants to speak that would be in favor of this?
I can just approach to get those photos.
Sure.
I can make copies for the next meeting if you prefer.
Of the pictures?
Yes.
No, I personally don't. I don't know. You can ask the rest of the board. I'm all set. I don't think it's necessary.
I'm in favor, yeah.
I don't, it's getting past bedtime.
And you want to hear me say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm John Pedrick, I live 2 houses away. and
if
Yep.
wouldn't mind, just step up to the
I didn't understand what was going on.
you're fine.
Just state your name and address, please.
John Pedrick at 234 Lee Farm Drive. I'm 2 houses away from the proposed construction. And I've been there for 60 years. And I'm looking forward to some home improvements in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And from what little I know, you guys know a lot more. I like what he wants to do. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else that would like to speak in favor?
My name's Marjorie Ashmore. I live in the house where the other ledge is, and I recommend that they do get approved for this because I don't want them to blast and either damage my house or the house on the other side. And I think it would be a hardship if they weren't allowed to put the mechanicals on the top floor. My address is 238 Lee Farm Drive, and I have been there for over 40 years. And I know this couple does everything right. They wouldn't do anything that wasn't according to code in this town.
My name's Michael Matheson. I'm at 239 Lee Farm, which is across the street. And I just wanted to say I'm in favor of it also. The plans fit within character of other homes. There's a home within my visual site that was actually one of the ones that was approved by the ZBA, and the one that was approved administratively, I guess that position is it was done in error, so that doesn't set precedent. But the change in design also gives better visibility because the roof pitch changes. And mechanicals in living spaces are very difficult. You hear the noise, you lose space. So I don't know what that falls into, but I would consider that a hardship also. Thank you.
Is there anybody from the public that would oppose it? Let the record show there's no opposition. Now, I do want to extend to close. All right, so we want to keep the public hearing open.
It's up to you.
I'm actually,
In order to continue to have discussion, whether it's
with the public or anybody,
the
we have to
public
keep it open.
or the applicant's attorney or our attorney to kind of collaborate and have that discussion, the public hearing needs to be open still.
But how are we going to walk away from this without closing it? We're going to just leave it open to,
You will leave the public hearing open until the next following meeting.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we could do that.
Absolutely, not a problem.
All right, so I motion to keep the hearing open till the following meeting.
Second.
I second that.
We got 2 seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Let it be known that all attendees are in favor?
So we have, I believe that was David's eye, apologies for doing it
Correct.
this way. If we could specifically get one from David and then one from Len.
You at David?
Len? Are you able to vote on that?
Is he there?
Len?
I think we lost him. We still have 4.
David, yeah, I don't see Len.
So we still have 4 for it, so we're still good. Yep. All right. I don't think we need all this. We can put this back for you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Does this go with this?
that is a second copy, so this one here goes over here. All right, the next one we have. All right, I need to read this.
Sorry, I'm just reconnecting them.
And this one's for
Oh,
the
that was
old
probably
business.
that call.
So now we're going to old business, correct?
I didn't have the number.
Kathy, I understand you have reviewed the minutes from the previous meeting?
have.
You have. So in order to vote on this next agenda item, you have to state on the record that you have reviewed the minutes and you were absent from the prior meeting.
Are you there?
Okay? So we'll get to that just
So should I
Yeah, no,
ask
that's
then
okay. I was-
for the
just
commission
realized
to
that the call
everybody
dropped, so-
approve of
Yeah,
the minutes?
sorry about
And then she would have to state.
No. We'll get to the minutes later for approval.
Okay.
She has to, on the record, state that she has read and reviewed the minutes, and that makes her eligible to then vote on the
Vote for-
agenda item
right,
here
'cause then
today.
she's admitting she's up to speed.
Precisely.
Everything.
Yep. So, at this point, I think everyone's on the phone, Jada?
Yeah.
So, Mark,
Yes,
you
I
can
have
move on to the
everyone.
next item on the agenda.
All right, we're gonna move on to old business for application number 24-052-Z, 407 South Britton Road. Stefano Demiglio, applicant owner, to build an emergency exit sitting area, construction of an 8x8 deck, landing with steps to grade in, which to allow a secondary egress from the building. Kathy, would you please, on the record, state that you have read the minutes?
I have read the minutes, and I was sent the minutes from her. Yeah,
Sonia.
Sonia, thank you. And yeah, I did review them.
Okay,
If you recall, Mark, we closed the public hearing at the last meeting. We just didn't have a resolution drafted in the event of your decision. So now it is time for the members to discuss the application and render a decision.
okay. Anybody have any questions as far as with this, as far as the discussion?
Nope,
David?
nope, no more information.
Okay.
I'd
Len?
just like to say one thing.
Nope, same, no more information.
Okay.
No, just that when I was listening about the secondary egress, that I felt it was a safety issue, and I would certainly think that that should supersede if it wasn't approved.
Understood.
Excuse me?
Oh,
Oh.
there we go.
Remember that when issuing an approval, whether or not you guys decide to approve today, you will have to state on the record your reason for approving said variance, whether you are stating on the record what you believe the hardship to be for said variance.
All right, so in this, am I allowed to discuss my opinion with, as far as this? Okay, so with looking and taking into consideration on this structure, I don't find there to be a hardship with egress due to the fact that the height of the building, the height of the window sills, under existing, structure of where the height and everything falls on the topography around there, if there was to have an emergency to get out, it's not above any height that I believe is, would require for them to have a secondary egress. I don't know, there's nothing, I thought we were getting more information from the applicant, but nothing has come in.
Anticipating additional information from the applicant, we were simply asked to draft up a resolution
Okay.
for any
Oh, all right, I'm sorry, yeah, I
following
remember now.
decisions. The resolution has been drafted up for your reference.
And if you read through the references as far as the setbacks, if I'm not mistaken, this is encroaching further into non-conforming into the setbacks, correct, between the rear and the
Correct.
frontage?
Yep, that is the reason for the request of variance, and if you recall, the stated hardship was topography and egress.
I'd like to put a motion for this to vote. Mr. Allen? And if you have any questions, any
Frankly, the-
motions?
The motion will be to approve or deny, whether it's any of the members that make said motion. Any other discussion or questions, we can continue that, but further than that, it's a motion to approve or a motion to deny.
Would you like me to go first? I have a motion to not approve. I don't find the hardship with the topography, I don't find the hardship of having this as an emergency egress. I find it more as a want than it is a need.
Well, like I said, I found that, I did find it as a safety issue for this, not having a secondary egress with the distance.
So,
You in
Kathy,
favor or-
how would you vote?
I would vote no,
You would vote no?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
For the second egress of the house, I would motion to approve the application, because looking at the structure, the house, I think that you should be able to have a second egress on that property. So I am in favor of allowing it.
We'll go David.
David?
My vote would be to approve.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
He'll just have to state on the
Just let
record.
him know that Mark has made a motion.
You need no reason.
Yep, David, we'll need a reason for your approval.
Looking at the topography, I think that a second egress would be improve the safety of the, that's the way I could put it.
Thank you, David. And we'll move on to Len.
Yes, I vote no due to lack of any hardship.
Thank you, Len.
Let the record show, it's 3 not in favor and 2 in favor. The application is denied. I motion to close this application.
That's fine.
Anybody second?
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None opposed.
I'm sorry?
Nope, I said opposed and there was
Oh,
none opposed,
okay,
sorry.
yep. All right, for new business, is this the part where, Sonia, I bring up as far as,
Sure.
okay. You guys, could you stay on? David,
I'm
Len?
still on.
You're on? Okay.
Yes, this is
All right.
Glenn, I'm on.
I am motioning to have Gary
Garofalo.
Garofalo removed from our board due to the fact of lack of attendance, lack of correspondence, and just total disregard to the board by not complying with anybody on the board first, or in our town zoning, and he's just not being a, I'm trying to think of a polite word.
Participated?
He's not a very good participant. And I think we should open that seat for availability to find somebody that does want to partake in this. And I'm putting a motion out there to vote to have him removed from our board. Anybody in
I don't think I've
favor?
ever met.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor. I've never met him.
Kathy?
Could I pass?
I don't know. You can abstain. Len?
I'm gonna vote no.
So we have 3 in favor, 2 not in favor. It looks like we remove them.
Motion carries. I will discuss with town council as well as the town committees regarding the legality of the commission voting to remove a member.
Okay. I also now motion to have John Allen be seated as a permanent member of the board, so that we can have a full commission and take him out of his alternate seat. All in favor?
Aye.
Who was that? David?
Yep, Dave says aye.
David says aye. Len?
I'm gonna abstain.
Abstain?
Mark Kane, vote in favor is aye. That puts us 3-2.
3-2 to move John as an alternate, and again, I am unclear on the legality of a commission making motions to remove and appoint members. It's my understanding that I believe this is a Republican and Democratic town committee involvement, but you guys have made a motion. If it is legal, it shall stand here today. However, I will do some extra legwork tomorrow during work hours to address the legality of these decisions.
Thank you.
And I will get back to all of you.
Oh, great. All right. We move on to other business. Any correspondence that we have?
Well, the correspondence that, I mean, I have it under other business, but we can put it under correspondence, is the commissioner training, the email that I sent out, which involves primarily the one that's on May 20th, which is a basic training for the ZBA commissioners. And of the 3 dates that they are offering, this one is actually a virtual training, so if you could attend this via Zoom, it would be helpful.
Great opportunity.
And it also adds to your hours of training, that the mandatory 4-hour training that you need.
Is it only Zoom or?
This particular one that says for ZBA commissioners is Zoom. And then you have April 27th, which is in person at the UConn Middlesex campus.
No, that's already passed.
Yeah, so that's gone, and that's the only one that was there that they're offering.
Similarly,
So similarly, May 17th is passed too, so you can, I mean, May 17th is coming up, but it's not something that you need to do.
it's not pertaining directly to the zoning board of
Correct.
appeals, which is
Correct.
why we felt May 20th was a great opportunity for this commission. You guys don't get a lot of participation and practice in doing these, so additional training as it's related to your commission, because there's a lot of nuance with the ZBA. You guys hold a lot of power, but you have to abide by the rule of law in your commission, so it's a great opportunity to get some additional training for you guys, and it's virtual, so I think it's a slam dunk.
I think it's good.
Perfect, yeah, we'd love it if everyone could attend
What day
this
does that
virtual
fall?
meeting.
May 20th.
But what's the date? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Oh, I don't know what May 20th is.
17th is a Saturday, so
It's
Tuesday?
Friday, Saturday,
out in just a sec.
Sunday,
Monday?
Monday,
May
Monday.
20th is a Monday.
yeah.
Good job.
And you could
Quick.
sign me for that. I will participate in that.
And what time is it? Does it say the time?
It doesn't, but we will send you guys another email following this meeting with more specific reference to the information and the link that's necessary for that
And
training.
it's actually Zoom?
Mhm.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is that all day on the 20th?
Dave, I would imagine it's about an hour and a half, I'm guessing at this point, but it's an online ZBA basic training. I can't imagine it would go past 2 hours, but I am guessing at this point. We'll send you more information tomorrow when we're able to get in front of a computer and get the actual posting for this event.
Okay.
All right, staff report. That's a new one for me.
Basically, it's the staff reports that I've written and sent in the package and the emails in regards to the 2 properties that we spoke
So
of
those are the
today.
reports for the applications that Jada did. If there's anything that comes up regarding zoning board of appeals specific issues around town, things that Jada would like to consult with this board about, questions, concerns, maybe there's some regulation rewrites that need to come down the pike, they will be included with the staff report under other business. The
And
staff
that's-
reports you'll receive for the applications are application specific,
Yes.
and Jada will always generate those when there's an application before you.
All right, so these staff reports, just so I'm clear, are pertaining to the applications.
Application
All right,
specific.
So the staff
Yeah.
reports are for the applications that are coming up for the, upcoming applications that we're.
Correct, you'll always receive a report regarding an application from Jada. She will reference all of the land use regulations as it pertains to that application and bring any questions, concerns, violations, compliances. She'll run through the whole thing for you guys. That way it's an easier synopsis
Right.
of what's in front of you. If she ever has any issues, questions, things she wants to bring up to this commission under this event, under a meeting format, then she will generate a report for other business, kind of saying, hey, these are some issues I'm seeing in town. I would like some guidance from the zoning board of appeals and for us to talk about this. So those are separate than the application reports that you hold in your hand.
Okay, and when will we receive these, for the most part?
Those were sent, I think, on
We can do it a
Monday,
week before if you want,
before the actual meeting.
They will be generated following an application being received.
Okay.
If Jada has enough time following an application's receipt and the next following meeting, you will get it for the meeting where you will accept the application. If the applicant drops off the application 2 days before your meeting, that doesn't give Jada enough time, meaning you will get it the subsequent month prior to any public hearings or second meetings being called to
Yeah,
order.
because I really feel bad that I made everybody wait because, and I understand you guys are busy, but I got this stuff yesterday. I had no time because I had to drive and everything else, so I'm just letting you know, I'm not insulting or doing anything. It would be just appreciable to have the paperwork at least a substantial amount of time
We will
prior.
always do our best.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, I understand. Believe me, I know you guys do I can see the changes and everything already very well.
Thank you, Mark.
There was another thing as far as, okay, no, I'm good with that. All right, so the minutes, as far as approval, I motion to approve the April 2nd, 2024 regulatory minutes, meeting minutes. Have anybody second?
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Mark? Then you'll do an all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I approve even though
Aye.
I wasn't there?
You've reviewed them, so yes.
Yeah, you still have to, right. So I have to do all in favor after every vote?
Mhm.
Okay,
We want to get an opinion of the entire commission.
okay. Do
A
we have the
second?
two on the cell phone call for approval? In favor?
Yep.
Yep.
Let the record show, all in favor. Any other business that may probably come before the
Now
commission?
we're on number 4, we're on bills.
Oh,
we-
bill, any new bills?
Yes, we have $410 in receipts, which is basically application fees that we've received over the last couple of months.
So it's not a bill, it's a deposit?
It's a receipt, yes.
Oh, so we're
it's a
making
receipt.
money.
Yeah, we're making money, yes.
All right, the commissioner training, which we did discuss, which we already have on record for everybody that's gonna attend that, and we will be getting the links. And I motion for the meeting to be adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, sure, now you'll, yeah. Now you speak up. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Aye. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you. Signs.
Oh, man, no one's supposed to know I